Hi guys, welcome back to Joe's RC Corner, and today we're going to continue some work on the Giles 202 from Midwest. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back guys. Okay, so we're going to be continuing some work on the Giles 202. I wanted to I finished up the stab and the elevators. We do have them hinged now. Now, there is going to be one thing that I'm going to be doing on here in the Dubro pin point hinges that I'm using here. You might be able to see, bring it in a little bit closer here. The balsa strip and the leading edge of the elevator is a little bit thin for these types of hinges. So what I'm going to be doing to alleviate some of the stress on that small section here is I'm going to add a piece of balsa wood, balsa block, internal right inside here. So because I'm going to have to do that, I'm going to actually omit using the transparent covering on the elevators. I know it would have looked nice if I wasn't using these hinges. And yes, I could cut them, but that's not the right way to do it. We want to make sure that most of this pin point hinge is covered in this balsa wood. I want to have enough meat there for that to be able to have enough support for these hinges here. So that'll be the next step. Now, because we're using these point hinges, and I'm not sure if either one of these cameras is going to pick it up, but I'll take a picture of it with my camera. But there's the hinge point itself needs to be at the pivot point of the surface. So I went ahead and we notched out where each one of these hinges meet up. That way the pivot point can be right at that, for the hinge, can be in line with the leading edge of the elevator. So as you can see, both of them move nice and freely. There's no binding. They both travel about the same distance. And so that'll look good right there. And then these are pretty much ready to cover. And then we'll be ready to move forward. So I'm going to set this aside because in the meantime, what I want to do is I want to start building this the vertical stabilizer here, the fin. Get that built up and let that start drying while I work on this part. So we're going to set this aside back here on the table. Okay, so that's sitting over there nice and flat on the table. We'll clear off this area here. And we're going to start cutting out the pieces to go on the vertical stabilizer here. So let's go ahead and grab the book, make sure that we grab the right pieces of wood. Okay, so as you can see in the, I'm going to go ahead and use my phone here and get some close-up shots of the instructions here. So basically we're at the stage right here where we cut out the leading edge, trailing edge from the 1/4 inch by 3/8 balsa and then pin it over the plans. So as you can see, there's a long trailing edge piece. Then you have the leading edge piece. And there's a little bit of a step here that goes down inside to the fuselage, and then you have the crossbars. And then this is all going to be sheeted with a 1/16 inch balsa sheeting. So we're going to make sure we use the correct sheeting this time when we do this. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to do a little bit more of a play-by-play on this part of the build. And the rest of it is basically built the same way. So we'll find the balsa blocks here that are 3/8, and I believe they're in this packet here. Yes, here we go. And I believe I also have a few pieces left over from building the stab here. So there's a piece here. Okay. And I think that's the only piece I have that's there. But I do have another one here if we need it. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with these pieces here. Move this up back out of the way. And of course I do have my my wax paper down on top of the plans because we can build it right on top of the plans as the book shows. Make sure that's flat. We'll grab our wood glue here because I use the Tight Bond wood glue to do this. So here's one of the harder pieces. They're all both pretty damn hard. So we'll go ahead and we'll line the first piece up here. Now the spline is going to be the first piece, which is the back half here. And it looks like that goes all the way down to the bottom of the fuselage, which is great. Adds a little bit of strength there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my pencil over here. And we're going to line it up. And I'm going to mark it. And remember, cut on the far side of that. So I'll go ahead and do that right here. I got a little jig here that I can do that with. And we'll be able to cut a nice 90-degree with my razor saw. Nice 90-degree edge. We're going to line that up. We're going to grab the pins. There's my box of pins laying around here. There we go. Box of T-pins. We'll line this one up. And I like to put them in on an angle. I cut this one a tad bit on the longer side. I actually used the rudder on accident there, but that's okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll pin that right there. And goes down to the bottom of the fuselage right here. All right, so that's step one. Now it looks like this top piece here is a 1/4 by 1/4. Top and bottom are 1/4-inch squares. Okay? We'll do this side here out of this piece. I'm going to mark this one. Mark the angle I need. And this one is going to be a straight from here, like so. All right, so we'll go ahead and cut these. And that lines up perfectly there. So we'll go ahead and pin that in place. It looks like that's a 1/4-inch, 1/4-inch, 1/4-inch. So now that's all with these. Now I need to get the 1/4-inch block pieces here. So one of these other boxes here. Here we go. Should be this. That should go between here and there. We'll get that line. And this should be cut square. And we'll pin that one in. We want to keep this piece straight with the plan, so we're going to go ahead and pin this one in. And we'll pin this in. Like so. Another 1/4-inch goes here. I'm going to get that alignment here. That should go right along here. And right along here. So this will be a 90.
And we use the sander for the other side.
All right, good. That one's a little long. That'd rather be a little long than a little short. So Let's line that one up there. There we go. That one fits perfectly now. Go ahead and pin that in place now. Okay, very good. Now, I'm going to reuse this piece though, so it didn't go to waste. It needs to come a little bit steeper there. And there. Okay, so now that we got all the outside edges cut out and shaped properly, what I'm going to do next is we're going to start unpinning everything around for the outside edge. We're going to add a little bit of the wood glue onto them and then let them sit. So let's go ahead and get that started now. Okay, so let's go ahead and unpin these. This one's going to stay pinned where it's at because the spline is, everything's going to be gluing to it. So we'll go ahead and unpin all these. Hopefully the camera is getting a good view of this. Okay, so we'll get a little bit of wood glue on there. Get that lined up and pinned. There you go. We're going to put a little bit of wood glue on the edge of this. And get that one lined up.
Line it up over here.
That's going to be our leading edge. We have another small 1/4 inch piece. Put a little bit of wood glue here. There we go. And I left this piece a little bit long. We can sand it down from there. Okay. And then the bottom piece, which will fit right in here, nice and snug. Almost holds itself in place. Okay, so we'll get a little glue on both of those corners. Okay, now that we have this part done, we're going to go ahead and make these cross members, and we're going to do it the same way. It says it's 1/4 by 1/4 block or square. I had that here around, there we go, right here. And what we'll do is the first corner from here to here. And then of course it goes this way and this way. Okay, we'll go ahead and cut this. All right, now we'll add the glue to this one. We're just going to glue these ones along the way. Just like so. And I'm just going to go ahead and continue this along the way. I'll come back to you guys when this part is done, because you guys don't want to sit there and watch me cut out each little corner piece here. And so when we get ready to sheet, I'll be right back. All right, guys, so we're back, and we the glue has now sat long enough that the vertical stabilizer now is dry. We're going to go ahead and pull the pins on it, and we're going to get ready to start doing the sheeting. Okay, we'll separate this from the paper very carefully here. There are some spots that are still a little bit wetter than others, but that's okay. They'll go ahead and dry over time. So there's the stab. Nicely built. All the joints are all nice and snug, and feel pretty strong as it sits right now. Now I did have to sand this piece off here. I made that a little bit longer than I needed to, which I did on purpose, so that way I can get it to fit just right. So we'll sand that back nice and flush with the rest of it. Perfect. Okay, there we go. Now we're ready to go ahead and grab the 16th inch balsa sheeting. So I have that right over here on a pile. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of that. We'll grab 2 sheets of that 16th inch balsa sheeting to do this. So it doesn't look like, let me go back to the manual here and see if it actually goes down. And yes, it actually will go down this side right here to double this up as well. So we're going to go ahead and take this piece here, I'm going to lay it down nice and flat. I'm going to line this up like so, because on the book they're showing it going vertical. So we're going to do that same thing. We're going to trace this really quick, like so. I'm going to take this over to my cutting mat with my ruler. Be right back. Now I went ahead and I cut this a little bit larger than I need to, because I'd rather have a little bit extra and sand it off than to have not enough. So we're going to do one side and then we'll flip it over and do the other side later. Now to get these last pieces to butt up together nicely, I'm going to go ahead and grab this here. I'm going to lay this down here and try to get an idea of where the next one needs to be. Those edges fit nicely, but we're going to give it a quick sand just to make sure that they're nice and true. And same on this one. So now these should fit together nice. Oh yeah, beautiful. Those fit together nicely now. Just like so. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over. Lay it all nice and flat down. Get this piece lined up on here so it's right in the center. Okay, and now I can go ahead and trace right here, because that's where this piece needs to be cut now. And I'm going to do the same right here, because that corner here I'm going to be able to flip over and do the bottom side down there. So we're going to go ahead and cut this piece out over here on the side. So now, as you can see on this camera here, we have basically enough to cover this whole stab. Just line them all up like so, make sure they all fit nicely together. All looks really good. So for this portion of it, just to glue these together, kind of tack them in place, I'm going to use a little bit of my thin CA. I'm going to make sure I'm on top of this and the paper here so we don't stick it to the plans. I'm just going to put a little bit right down in here. A little bit in the middle. And same thing down here on the bottom. We're going to just line those pieces up. And we'll just go ahead and finish the rest of the edge here. Make sure they're all together nicely. Okay. Okay. Get a little bit kicker. Just make sure this is fully cured before I put it on top of this. Now, when we sheet this, we need to make sure that the stab stays completely flat. Because if you don't have that completely flat, then it'll pretty much cure in whatever direction that it is in. So we don't want to do that. So as you see, that fits and covers this whole section. And it's a little bit over on all of the edges, and that's fine. We're going to go ahead and sand all of that off later. I'd rather have extra and then have to sand it off. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and get the wood glue, and we're going to brush it around all of these edges and all of in here with the wood glue. And then we're going to be able to put some weights down, which I got my stack of batteries right over here to the corner, right over here. And those are some big lipos. They weigh a lot, so they should work perfectly. And I like using wood glue for this because it'll give me time to work with it, make sure that it's straight, and make sure that any of the edges from the wood glue will be sandable afterwards. So that's the main reason why we do that. The other thing I want to look at first before I go ahead and sheet this, because I did this on the other ones. Here and here, I'm going to be having the point hinges there. So I want to go ahead and take some of this 1/4 inch stock. I want to double this up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and glue a couple of pieces in there. Now to glue these pieces in, I'm going to go ahead and use some of this medium CA. Just a light dab across there. Piece them together nice and flush. And then sand them to the same length and the same shape here. And what this will do is this will give and I want to mark also where I'm putting these. So I'm going to grab my Sharpie here. So that way I know where I'm going to put these pinned hinges. All right. Do the same thing here with these, just a little dab of the medium. And I'll be doing the same thing on the rudder and the elevators. But those are open structures, so I'll be able to do that later. Okay, just like that. Now this one up there at the top, I need to do an angle here, so I want that to be glued right into this. So let me grab my razor saw here, and I'm going to put my angle of right there. We'll cut this off. And we'll make sure this fits in there nicely. And that'll fit right up into that corner there. Perfect, just like so. And I'll use a little bit of this medium CA to do this corner. Just clean up the excess wood glue here in this nut, in this corner here. Just like so. And then this piece will fit right in here. We'll use a little bit of medium CA. This will also act like a little bit of a gusset as well. Adds a little bit of strength. So now, as you'll be able to see, when I put in my, let me grab one of them here. When we put this pinned hinge in, I'll have a little bit more meat there for this pinned hinge to be grabbing onto when it gets epoxied in place. So that'll work out perfectly for that. So we'll put that off to the side. And then we have one more we're going to put in, and it's going to be a rough spot where, so right there is where I can drill. And right there is where that one is going to go. The ones down here are going to be inside this area for the of the fuselage, and there'll be some extra meat there anyway. And if I have to, before I install this into the fuselage, I can add a little bit more there. So let's go ahead and we'll add this last one here, and that'll give me a little bit of strength for this one. And to make sure that this doesn't add any extra bulge here in this area, I'm just going to sand them down just to make sure that everything is flush. There we go. And that's all going to be underneath the sheeting. Now the side that has the CA from gluing these together is going to be inward. So I'm going to go ahead and flip that to this side. I'm going to make sure I have a nice flat surface here. This side is going to be down, so we're going to go ahead and just take the wood glue, just put a small bead, and we'll put a little bit on these as well, those blocks that we just glued in place. Grab my brush here, we're just going to spread it out on there, just a nice thin layer here, not too much. I want to make sure we spread it across here. And if you use a brush to spread out the wood glue, just make sure you have some water nearby to let it soak in. That'll clean off the glue, keep the brush reusable. It's water soluble, so works really well for that. Just make sure you get enough spread across those pieces there. You don't want any of those sections that are coming to come unglued. Okay, set that off to the side. I'll throw that in some water in a minute. We're going to go ahead and flip this piece over, lay it on top. Like I said, the wood glue is going to give you plenty of time to wiggle it around, make sure that it's sitting, that there's enough overhang on all the pieces. Okay, then you can grab some weights. A little more weight to it. We'll throw an extra one on that edge as well. And then grab your water. Go ahead and put your brush in there, get that wood glue off of there, close your wood glue. And now we're gonna let that set and dry. Once that's dried, we'll be able to go ahead and flip it over and we'll sheet the other side. So stay tuned, guys, and we'll get started on that next section, okay?